when you start seeing those issues early on in the business, number one, they're only going to get bigger. So learn very quickly and make that change.
Hi guys, it's Kara Goldin from The Kara Goldin Show, and I'm super excited to have my next guest here. We have Mike Weber, who is the co-founder and CEO of Frutero. And today I'm going to be chatting with Mike, who story began, I guess in some ways, from a trip to India. Is this right? So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And, his passion for tropical fruit ice cream kind of happened by accident, which is the story of, I think, all great entrepreneurs. He wasn't planning on starting this, but when he stumbled upon this idea, he really thought that it was needed in the US, so he would be able to probably eat it and share it with other people. So he now owns and operates this tropical ice cream company called Frutero. It's distributed in over 3,000 stores. It's growing very quickly, super high quality fruits from various tropical countries, or at least that's where the fruits originated. And they are just super, super tasty, eclectic flavors. And I'm super excited to have you on, Mike. So thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
You didn't plan on being an entrepreneur. So let's talk about kind of the early days before founding Frutero. What did you do?
Yeah.
What were you up to?
So I grew up in Connecticut. My whole family lives there. And then I went to school at University of Maryland. I studied biology and I studied finance. And right after school, I went into consulting. It was there for 4 years. I just so happened to work for one of the largest ice cream companies. But I really wanted to have a more startup experience. So I left that. I went to work for a tech company in the beer industry. And that company ended up getting acquired by Anheuser-Busch. And I worked very closely with the founders there and was just amazed by their journey and that founder experience. And I wanted to have that journey for myself. So after that, I went back to school. I did my MBA at Wharton. And on the first day of class, I met the guy that would become my co-founder, Vedant Saboo. We were actually assigned to sit next to each other on the first day of class.
That's wild. Right away? What were some of the early conversations that you had with him that you just thought like he was like your other half for business? I mean, what was it that you just, did you enjoy him? You thought that he sort of, brought in something different into your life that you didn't have?
So when I went back to school, I wanted to start my own business. And in our early conversations, I was telling Vedant all the time, hey, when I get out of here, I want to employ myself. And after about a month of talking about that, he said, look, Mike, you've been talking about this for a month. I want to do the same thing. Let's get going. Let's do something together. So we started brainstorming different ideas. We ended up having about 82 different ideas, all sorts of things, not only food and beverage, all different things. But what was interesting was actually one of our early conversations was about our experience in tropical regions. And Vedant and I, we are from totally opposite sides of the earth. He grew up in India. I grew up in Connecticut. But we both have these strong connections to the tropics. For him, growing up in India, his grandfather had a mango farm. So when he has mangoes, he's brought back to those experiences. And for me, my family, we go on vacation to Hawaii and Mexico, and we enjoyed guavas in Hawaii and passion fruits in Mexico. That's how I associate those fruits. And we recognized that, we're not alone in this. You have 85 million people in the US who have some cultural connection to the tropics, whether it's India or Latin America and Southeast Asia, right? Have this connection to the fruits. And you have pre-COVID, tens of millions of people like me who have traveled to tropical regions, have tried the fruits and really have those strong memories of the fruits. And Frutero is all about reconnecting people to those tropical experiences through all natural foods with delicious fruits.
That's awesome. So talk about, you went to India, I read, and were you looking for an idea for ice cream? I mean, obviously that was when you were working at an ice cream company, or?
So I was at school, and this is when Vedant and I were kind of brainstorming different ideas. And one of the first things that he said here was, in India, we have all these amazing fruits, and we have this one particular chain of ice cream stores with all these tropical flavors. And I can't believe that people in the US don't have it. So in January of 2020, I was going on a trip to India, and he recommended I try the ice cream, and I was there. So actually, first day, land in Mumbai, go to the hotel, grab a few friends, and we go straight to this ice cream place. And we tried the ice cream, and it was absolutely delicious. And there were some fruits I knew. I knew coconut, I knew mango, but a lot of fruits that I didn't know at the time. I definitely did not know what a guanabana was, or a soursop, but it was so delicious. And we came back to the US, and we were looking for just that fruit ice cream. Of course, you must have it here in the US. And we went to Whole Foods, we went to Acme, went all over, couldn't find it anywhere. And that's when we initially thought, there could be an opportunity here to bring this to US consumers, initially thinking maybe this would just be a niche product. We know the Indian community likes it, but then very quickly realized that, it's a product that everyone really, really likes. I mean, these fruits, passion fruit and mango are just really, really delicious. And they're delicious in their natural state, but it's so hard to get a delicious mango or just delicious passion fruit in the US fresh. So we bring that same flavor to our customers.
That's awesome. So you get out of business school. Did you actually start it in business school? I mean, were you guys writing the business plan or?
Oh, there was no business plan.
No, you were like, let's just wing it. Let's get it co-packed and just go for it.
So I'll say initially, we really did not think that this would be the idea that would take us to the promised land, right? It was in between our first and second year. It was March, so we had the summer vacation and coming up, and we said, look, we need to do something here. Let's just get this ice cream idea started, and at least we'll learn something over the summer. So we actually sold our first, at the time, it was a half pint of ice cream on May 21st. May 26th, I got married. And then that first summer of 2019, we were just saying, where does this product work? So we sold up and down the streets in Philadelphia. We sold to convenience stores. We sold to taco restaurants. We sold to the university. We sold to grocery stores, just testing where could we get traction with a product. And by the end of that summer, we found the grocery channel, and particularly the natural grocery channel, is really where we had the best traction. And that's where we started to double down on in late 2019. And then in 2020 is where we kind of had our first big break, getting into Whole Foods through their local program, just in 12 stores around Philadelphia.
That's wild. What was the hardest thing that you didn't anticipate sort of getting in? I mean, it's interesting as you're sharing that story and having come from working for a large ice cream company. I always think about my dad when I was launching Hint, and he had started a brand called Healthy Choice. And so I went to him and I said, how do I get into Safeway? Like, you were in Safeway. I mean, how can ConAgra owned Healthy Choice? So they had it all worked out. Like, he had to negotiate internally, and I'm sure the ice cream was the same way for the space, but to actually go in and get a meeting with a buyer and talk to a buyer, and also talk to a buyer about how you're launching something that is really different and they should make space for you. I mean, I can just only imagine maybe that's slightly easier in Whole Foods. I think the competition in every category has gotten greater. But was it really surprising? Because you had never really done anything like that.
It was very difficult. There were no overnight successes or overnight surprises that came out. It was really just grinding. And I think, to your point, Whole Foods was one of the easier ones to get a foot in the door. So in 2020, we got a foot in the door at Whole Foods with 12 stores. And we also got onto GoPuff, instant delivery platform, just by sending a cold email to the CEOs, which was nice. But in 2020, we felt great because over the summer we had those 12 Whole Food stores. We were really doing well. The business was growing. And then in September and Q4 of that year is when we said, okay, we're going to take this data and we're going to pitch to grocery stores all over. And we pitched to grocery stores all over the East Coast. And fortunately, we got meetings with everyone. And you know what? We got rejected by everybody. Like, literally, Vidal and I were saying to each other, we've had so many meetings. We're definitely, you get one come through, we're going to be in good shape. Nothing came through that year. So we said, look, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? This is a channel. And we said, look, we really have to just work with what we had, which is we were in Whole Foods in that local program, which kind of gave us a license to hunt and expand in more stores. And then fortunately, we got approved at a mass market retailer called ShopRite in the region, which has a bit over 300 stores. And that was the same thing where it was like a license to hunt. We weren't placed on the shelf. We didn't have our space, but we were able to go to the stores and pitch to the managers. And that's exactly what we did. So at that time, we had graduated. Vedant was living in California. He flew to the East Coast, and he was just living out of his car for about 2 months, going to different ShopRite stores and pitching just to get on the shelf. Sometimes, there are some slower selling items, so we would just buy them. We would just buy everything out on the shelf so we'd get our space and we'd get the store to place an order. And then I was really focused on the marketing. We had a really robust digital marketing strategy driving people into the store, asking for, man, I want that guanabana. I haven't had guanabana since I was in the Dominican Republic or on my vacation in Colombia. And we ended up doing very well in those stores, and then used that as a proof point in the region to then this past year pitch to other grocery stores. And it was much easier than to say to Stop and Shop, hey, right across the street from you at ShopRite, look how well we're doing over there, right? So then this year we went from just about 450 stores to over the last 2 months, 3,000 stores. And I think it was really a lot of learnings, but definitely knowing what the customer wants, right? Which for us is the grocery store, and they want to know, hey, can they make more money with your product than the next product that you can put there? And we had to prove that to them. And definitely the type of ice cream that we're making is much different than anything else in the ice cream category. So we had to make them believe that this is something that would actually work for them. I think we did a good job proving that last year. And lastly, I think, we just had a hustle. I think at the beginning, you got to get out there as a founder. Right? You're not going to have a hero. No one's going to be your hero. You have to do it yourself. And early on, it's not about a scalable solution for these things. It's just about muscling it out and just getting the job done.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think it's interesting. I was on the phone with an entrepreneur the other day and shared a little bit about how, you can definitely get into stores, right? And you can get your product in if it tastes good, right? No matter, it's not easy, but it's possible. But the real key is staying in because they want to see that things are selling. So your ability to actually grab data, everything that you're talking about, and sort of show people, maybe even against all odds, that things worked. Like if you've got a flavor that they've never heard of, for example, and it's killing it, right? On the shelf, like that's where they can, start to paint their own picture of whether or not it would do well in their store. But, you're still up against huge competition. You're always fighting for space. Yeah. And frankly, hint, almost 17 years later, is still fighting for space. People are like, yeah, you're much bigger. But it's still a fight, and anything can happen along the way. As you know, in the ice cream industry, somebody new comes up. It's almost like you're a competitive advantage, right? Or you've got a competitive advantage, but you actually have to prove yourself. Yes. And I think that the closer you can stay to the consumer and really understand what's going on versus actually outsourcing it, I think that you've got a few years before you can really outsource it. That's another thing that I share with entrepreneurs. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think the way that we've built Frutero is really outsource the things that are more on the commodity side where there's not value being added, right? Warehousing, the actual manufacturing for us, right? But what's critical for us is the sales and marketing. And by marketing, it's who is our customer? Why are they buying Frutero? And the interesting learning for us has been our customers are not just the ice cream shopper who's buying Ben & Jerry's one day. They want that super chocolate, chunky fudge, and the next day buying Frutero. People who love Frutero, they love fruits, right? So the challenge for us is actually getting consumers from that fruit section, from the produce section, and letting them know, hey, Frutero exists, right? We know you enjoy buying fresh mangoes. Well, you'll also love buying Frutero. and thinking about how are we going to target those customers so they know about us has been critical for us.
This was another question I got from an entrepreneur the other day. Pricing. It used to be where, I don't know, maybe you figured out your cost of your goods and then you said, okay, double it and that will be, but you've got to sell it into, as you get bigger, you're going to have to sell it into a distributor. In many cases, you're not just delivering directly. So you've got to be careful about that because you don't want to have some huge increase that on the shelf. But how did you think about that? And I think that that's where maybe going to business school, maybe having experience at a big company kind of helps you to sort of think about that stuff. But what advice would you give to entrepreneurs when they're trying to look at pricing?
Whether it's looking at pricing or for us was looking at where to actually sell. What we looked at was where is the most volume moving in grocery in ice cream, right? And I spoke initially early on that we were looking at all different channels initially on where to sell. We were looking at restaurants, convenience, grocery, and we realized, look, most of the volume is moving through grocery. So, okay, that's the channel that we're initially going to focus on, grocery. And I think it was kind of similar with pricing. We look at what are the brands in the category that are really moving a lot of volume. And it was the brands like Ben & Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs, and we kind of look at their price point, and then we look at what else is in there. And we see there's a lot of brands that are higher up. They have $6, $7 pints. We said, you know what? A lot of those brands just don't grow a lot. They're just priced out of the market. They'll work in LA. They'll work in New York, right? But they don't work in the rest of the country. And we really wanted to build a company and have products that anybody can buy, right? So when we thought about pricing, we said, look, we want to have a price that's a slight premium to Ben & Jerry's because certainly we're paying for it. We work directly with partners in Colombia with those farmers and processors there to get the fresh fruit. So we're really investing in it. But we want to get that product to a shelf that works for, a regular American consumer, and we don't want to price them out. So really, we just say wherever we are, we want to be a slight premium to Ben & Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs. But of course, you do get the complications of when you go through a distributor, you're really stuck with a lot of the pricing there.
Yeah, definitely. You talked about digital marketing, and I feel like digital marketing has grown, has changed in many ways over the last 2 years, especially as people were trying to get access to different types of food and stores were closed. How did your world change during, the last couple of years with COVID?
Yeah, so we were a COVID baby, right? We were born in COVID. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those classical marketing techniques or strategies we couldn't do, right? We couldn't get into stores and do a lot of sampling. And for Frutero, we always say tasting is believing. When people try our ice cream, they repeat buy. Like our repeat purchase rate is very good. So we had to be a bit more creative. And what really worked for us was on the digital marketing side. We had that insight that our customers love fruits. So that's what we targeted. So on Facebook and on Instagram, we target folks that have an interest in fruit. At the same time, what was so interesting during COVID was there was this huge rise of e-commerce or e-grocery, right, with Instacart. So what we do on there is for a customer looking for pineapple or avocado or strawberry, they'll always see an ad for Frutero come up. And what was so interesting about it was those keywords for us were super cheap, right? Because avocado, there's one brand of avocado in the store. So it's no one wants that keyword. So we were able to sit on that very quickly, get right in front of those consumers. And the other thing was kind of using social media to build brand advocates. When people just how can we make people promote that fanatic love of Frutero? And when people try Frutero, particularly if they have some cultural connection to Frutero, if they grew up in India enjoying mangoes with their families, they really want to talk about that experience. So we engage our customers to get them to talk even more with their friends, with their families about, wow, I just found this mango and it tastes just like the mango that we had on our vacation. You have to try it. And we get people all the time that, I tried the guanabana and then I picked up 8 pints I brought it to my office so everyone there could try it because I knew the people in my office, they'd never tried guanabana, and I wanted to share it with them.
That's so great. And obviously tough in the frozen space to do that, to do this. I think there's many people who wouldn't do what you've done because of the frozen space. They're like, oh my God, what a nightmare, right? What would you say? Do you believe it's gotten easier, that the process of actually doing frozen is, has gotten slightly easier? There's people who will handle that, from a co-pack, from, pick and pack. And
it's kind of all I know so far.
Yeah.
But I think we're very fortunate here in the U.S. that there's a very robust infrastructure for the frozen supply chain, right? When there's frozen warehouses all over the country, and there's, capacity is a little tougher these days on trucks. But really to get, we want to send a truckload to California. We send a few emails. We have very, very good partners at Frutero. And really over the last year, a big priority for me has been getting those right partners in place, right? So, our partners, our farming partners down in Colombia, we really have developed a very strong relationship with them. Same thing with our warehousing partners and co-packers and our logistics partners. They trust us, we trust them. And I think it's really about building that strong relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Such a great way to think about it, for sure. So, and then, obviously your direct to consumer business, as you've grown that, I mean, you're also building your own list. And do you feel like I don't think direct to consumer is going away anytime soon. I think that people are looking for new flavors constantly. And I was looking on your site too. Do you feel like that's a big push for your site, is to kind of test flavors as well?
I see D2C as where we test innovation. It's exactly that. From a business perspective, from a margin perspective, I'd rather do grocery business all day long than D2C, right? Especially when it's frozen. Unfortunately, most of what the customer is paying for is FedEx, dry ice, and an insulated box, right? The actual cost of goods are very, very limited there. So we see using grocery as that's where we're going to put the main products, right? The fast selling products. And then for our, super fans, we want to have new products available, new fruits available from our website. So for example, we're in one chain, Food Lion down in North Carolina. It's 1,100 stores. And we decided not to put our guanabana there. But we get so many messages through our website, through our social media, of people saying, I went to Food Lion and I was looking everywhere for the guanabana. I can't find it, right? I think that's a flavor that, it probably wouldn't work very well at Food Lion, but it's so important for us to have it available to those customers from our website. And the other thing is, as we're growing our distribution, there's a lot of areas in the country that can't get Frutero right now, right? On the East Coast, we're everywhere. Stop and Shop, ShopRite, Whole Foods, Acme, Safeway, Food Line. But the, folks over there, they try Frutero and they say, I have a cousin in Chicago that would love Frutero, but we don't have any stores right now in Chicago. So D2C is a great way for those customers to send Frutero to their loved ones. At the same time, I think we have really invested in our relationships with a lot of the instant delivery companies, and particularly,
I was going to ask that on the GoPuffs and some of the others.
Exactly. GoPuff has been amazing. So pretty much you get on the app, you can order Frutero, and in literally 15 minutes, you can get Frutero delivered to your door. And my wife and I, we just had a baby this past weekend. So while we were in the hospital, the nurses were just amazing there. So I was ordering Frutero for everyone. And thankfully down in Florida, in South Florida, we have Frutero on GoPuff. So just boom, boom, click, click, and we get it delivered in 15 minutes. I think with ice cream, it's an impulse buy, right? People want it
totally
now. So for the same price that you can get a pint of Frutero in the store, you can get it delivered to your home in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So GoPuff, I mean, I can't say enough about them. We just love that, and that relationship is super important for us.
That's awesome. Those guys are great. I want to get him, the CEO, on here, because it's a phenomenal story. Absolutely. Very, very cool. So, Mike, share a story about like a challenge or failure that you've had along the way in building this business. As you and I were talking about, I think that entrepreneurism has been over glamorized at times for people just getting in, and we all know the stories of entrepreneurs in every industry are, it can be challenging and frankly lonely sometimes too, as you're going through these things that you might not tell your closest friends about. Here's what happened at ShopRite, right? And it's a weird story that people wouldn't even believe half the time. As my husband and I have said over the last 17 years of building Hint, we would have probably made more money just like running the video camera on some of the stuff that went on, that we think back on. And I mean, it's just between co-packers and some of those meetings and meetings with grocery buyers and, things when we were on top of everything and then all of a sudden we weren't. I mean, it's so many stories. So share one that you have.
Yes. And just on your point of the ups and downs and the loneliness, I think what I'm so fortunate about is my partner, Vedant. I definitely we could not do this without each other, because I think when you have two partners, right, you have two people, well, you're going to get those highs and lows, right, in the business. And I think it's so important to have two people, because look, there's some times when I've been super down, especially early on in the business, where I'm super down, but you have your partner that, brings that positivity to you. And then you'll have times when it's the reverse situation, especially early on when we knew nothing about making ice cream, and it just looked so like it was such a long journey to when can we even get a product to the shelf. But in terms of the big failures we had or big mistakes we had, it was really early on. It took us a while to figure out the right product, place, price, and promotion, right? Just the 4 Ps of marketing. And I think the biggest mistake that we made was actually taking too long to apply some of the things that we were seeing and make changes for it. And very specifically is when we launched Frutero, we saw that our path to building a brand would be through food service. We had this idea early on that we would be the Jarritos of ice cream. We thought that, at every Mexican restaurant you have Jarritos. We thought Frutero would be that dessert of choice there. So initially we came out with this half pint of ice cream, this 8-ounce cup of ice cream, and we sold on our bicycles all over Philadelphia. We also sold at the same time doing that, into grocery stores. And we started realizing in that first summer that, restaurants were not where we were gonna build a business. It was gonna be in grocery. And early on, we started getting feedback that the half pint, that smaller size, is not going to work in grocery. But at that time, we had $5,000 worth of packaging. And we said, how the heck are we going to change now? We have $5,000 invested in this packaging. We can't just throw it out. So we doubled down. We continued growing with this half pint. Then we had an issue with our co-packer where we pretty much got kicked out. We had to make a big change. And we had another opportunity. We had to change the configuration of the packaging. And we said we could go to a pint now, or we could just stick with the 8-ounce. And there again, we said, we're in so many stores already. It was maybe only 40 stores. And we said, it's just too late. We have to just stick with the half pint. Well, eventually that half pint really became an issue, and the margins on that were not good. And we also had a lot of operational issues. So that smaller container just got lost on the shelf. The buyers were ordering not enough, so we'd sell out a lot. And ultimately, we just became clear, we have to make the change now, and you have to just rip off that Band-Aid and switch the pack size. And it was not an easy thing to do. But now looking back, thank God that we made that change. So I think just the learning, if I were to do this again for other folks, is, when you start seeing those issues early on in the business, number one, they're only going to get bigger. So learn very quickly and make that change very quickly. And also those things that you see as impossible to do, it's impossible to make this change early on. Once you grow, it only becomes harder to make that change. We had a similar issue. We bought barcodes just off the internet early on, and we realized, you can't just do that. But we had to make that change, and that was tough. But, especially in the early days, just make the corrections as fast as you possibly can. And also make sure you're getting customer feedback as much as you can.
Those are great insights. So I think for everybody, we all have those moments when we're like, oh, why did we do that? That was so stupid. But I think the key is to learn from them, autocorrect as fast as possible, and go out and try some other things. So that is great stuff. And Frutero is terrific. So Mike mentioned many of the stores that it's available, but it's also available online. What's the best place for people to reach out? Can you share your website?
Yeah. So our website is fruteroicecream.com, FRUTERO icecream.com. People could also just email me. I'm Mike at fruteroicecream.com.
Perfect. And on social platforms, you guys are all set up there as well?
Yes, just at Frutero Ice Cream, FRUTERO.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode. Please subscribe to the Kara Goldin Show and hear great stories like Mike's and Frutero's. And we would really appreciate it if you would give this 5 stars, because the algorithm really is pushed by getting great ratings. And this was an awesome episode with lots of little gems in there. So appreciate that. And find me on all social platforms at Kara Goldin. And be sure to pick up a copy of my book, Undaunted, that shares our journey of building Hint. And we are here every Monday, Wednesday, and I believe we're adding another day as well. So really terrific that you all are staying with us and listening. And thanks, everyone. Have a great week.